For a few years now, Lexus has spoken at length about a driving philosophy that it calls the Lexus Driving Signature, which is honestly quite hard to properly understand in just 3 simple words. And it's certainly not something you can experience by just driving any old car. Instead, getting right into the beating heart of the brand and getting behind the wheel is perhaps the most effective way to demystify things.
This is Nagoya. We've come all the way here just to find out what exactly defines the Lexus Driving Signature.
Let's start with a 30-second quick primer. The Lexus Driving Signature debuted on the facelifted Lexus IS in 2021. It has been dubbed a new development standard marked by greater body rigidity and suspension improvements, and is intent on making driving more intuitive. More broadly, Lexus has also referred to it as a guiding philosophy behind the development of Lexus vehicles centered on creating a linear connection between man and machine. And most of all, it's supposed to blend nicely into the background and not be too crazily obvious to the driver. Okay, that was quite a fair bit. To really get the fully developed picture of the Lexus Driving Signature, however, you'll first have to dig deeper into a traditional philosophy embedded in the Lexus brand we know today. The term Takumi refers to a master craftsman who has spent decades to become the ultimate expert in his own line of work. They say it takes 10,000 hours to master a skill, but for a Takumi, you multiply that by 6 to 60,000 hours. In turn, the notion of absolute craftsmanship pervades every bit of the Lexus brand. This is the Takumi Kobo, or Takumi Atelier, where apprentices dedicated to the craft of metal forging come to train. While the Lexuses we drive don't roll out of this room, a good number of metal-based prototypes and models do actually start life here. It's rather insane to see the level of detail that goes into the pieces here. You'll often find yourself asking, was this sculpture or this pattern really made from metal and by hand? The answer, of course, is yes. We didn't have the time to learn any proper sculpting here, but we did try our hand at the patterning, and let's just say it wasn't the easiest task. An interesting thing we learned here is that the task is actually a highly multi-sensory process for the master apprentices. Naturally, you need to have a keen eye for understanding how the metal is changing along the way. And of course, stable and precise hands are super important. But it's also about listening to see how the clangs are like and appreciating how the form of the metal changes. While treating the craft with utmost respect and seriousness, it's also about developing a relationship with the metal. But back to the plot. We're here to find out what exactly the Lexus Driving Signature entails. And even though we've had a bit of a peek behind the curtain, the question of how craftsmanship and driving come together still hasn't been answered yet.
And that is why we've made a special trip all the way out to this gleaming new Shimoyama facility. Now, this facility only opened its doors in April this year, I believe, and it's really nice. It's this gorgeous space with beautiful architecture, lots of wood, very nature-driven. Also, it's equipped to host conferences, many guests, has lots of nice office spaces. And apart from all the beautiful architecture that you see, I think the important thing to note about Shimoyama is that this now marks the heart of the Lexus brand as well. In fact, this new facility has allowed the brand to fulfill its one team under one roof philosophy. So you get all of your Lexus employees now housed in the same space for extra synergy. Important thing to note about Shimoyama as well. Let's talk about its name. So if you go look up the characters on Wikipedia, Shimoyama actually translates to Xia Shan Cun, which should give you an idea of the surroundings that we're in. We're in fact in a heavily natural, heavily forested area. And apart from creating this sensation of peace and well-being, an important thing about Shimoyama is the fact that we are also located right next to the test track. These special test facilities that the brand has built. I want to quote Akio Toyoda on this: the more we drive cars and break cars, the ever better they become. That lies at the heart of the brand. And while we're not going to be breaking any cars today, we're definitely going to be driving them. So without further ado, let's get cracking. But I think the interesting thing about the Lexus Driving Signature is the fact that it's been conceptualized to begin even before you get in the car. In fact, I have an 18-step guide here. I'm not going to take you through all of them, but I'm going to show you a few anyway to give you an idea.
After admiring your Lexus's exterior, the act of opening the door is supposed to feel intuitive and seamless, with the design of the handles being simple and unconfusing. Then, as you open the door and you get in, everything your eyes see is supposed to be presented to you once more in a natural feeling and unsurprising manner.
And all that is supposed to continue when you step into your Lexus. I'm currently in the flagship of the range. This is the Lexus LM, the 4-seater one. And let me just continue reading from the Lexus Signature Driving Guide. Now that I'm in my car, I am supposed to find a space where I feel at home, somewhere I can be my true self. I should notice that stuff like the heights of the header, the instrument panel, the mirrors, they're all supposed to be placed comfortably around me in a familiar, feeling way. And I think it's very interesting that this is one of the aspects that Lexus has chosen to focus on, because you'd expect that a car like the LM is only designed for the passengers, right? They'll be chauffeur-driven all the time. But by also focusing on stuff like your entry and exit, the interior, the driving position, the driver's comfort, that's already where the Lexus Driving Signature begins.
And of course, all of this is supposed to carry into the experience behind the wheel too. So I'm currently behind the wheel right now of 7 cars that I'll get to drive today on the Shimoyama test circuit. This is course number 3, also known as the country road course, and what this course aims to do is to kind of simulate the driving situations that you get in Nürburgring. It's really meant to be this ultimate proving ground for all of the cars that Lexus produces. It has all the sorts of undulations, curves, bends that are meant to shake the car. We are told that it's really supposed to make the car feel uncomfortable, basically. And that's what we're doing right now. I am starting my day off in the RC, and this RC is special because it doesn't have a traditional steering wheel, it has a yoke instead. And here I'm putting the steer-by-wire system to the test. I've been told that when I take these cars across the tracks, I'll be trying 7 different cars, and they're all quite different. We have the RZ, we have the NX, UX, I even have the LM that I get to try. So what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to keep my driving style consistent so that I can really feel what this Lexus Driving Signature is. And that is what I'm going to do right now. In some ways, take this as an incredibly difficult test and take all of Lexus's cars as students who must ace this test with flying colours before they hit production. There are a couple of special things going on here with this RZ. Number 1, it's fully electric, meaning you don't get the same sensations of sound. Number 2, my hands are censored because that's actually a steering yoke I'm holding, relying on a steer-by-wire system still being tested by Lexus. While these qualities mean that it's potentially easy for this prototype RZ to lose its natural feel, it becomes very clear very quickly that the setup Lexus has crafted here feels extremely intuitive and nice to use. As with other Lexuses, you get a sense of silkiness and linearity, and the steering yoke feels oddly natural in your hands too. Number 1 checked, 5 more to go. Our next 2 pairs of cars are meant to illustrate another concept adopted by Lexus called Aji Migaki, which is directly translated to flavor and polish. Rather than a singular upgrade, think of it as an ongoing process of refinement directed at making all of its cars constantly better. The first UX we get to drive is a pre-Aji Migaki one. Out on the number 3 course, it rides okay and handles decently, if not superbly. While refinement is also acceptable, though not outstanding for a compact crossover. In essence, it's really not too bad until we get into the next one. So our third car of the drive, this is the updated UX. So let's take it out for a spin and see how it drives. This is referred to as the UX Aji Migaki, which has gotten extra welding and reinforcements not just to its front but also lower back ends for extra body rigidity throughout. Driven back to back, the difference is impossible to miss. The UX Aji Migaki feels significantly tightened up, holding the line better around more demanding bends. The ride is also a bit firmer, though not to the point of discomfort, and it feels just more settled overall. When we hit the simulated highway sections and pull up to higher speeds, refinement is far improved too. Our next pair of cars drives home the same point of polishing and refining, but this time with one of the most important models for Lexus. Given its positioning as a compact to mid-size SUV, the NX is particularly significant as a volume model. And like the UX Aji Migaki, the NX Aji Migaki we drive after the older NX thrives better in its sense of neutrality and predictability, despite being heavier and taller. As expected of a larger car, refinement is fantastic too. Here, one is able to appreciate how the NX, as a core representative Lexus name, can serve as the do-it-all, accessible basis from which the driving signature can be understood. But perhaps the most important point about the Lexus Driving Signature, it's supposed to hold across the lineup no matter the drivetrain or body style. Alright, this is car number 6. I think this is going to be the most drastic shift so far because we're bringing an MPV out onto the test track. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the driving experience continues to hold or perhaps be different with something that is honestly a lot heavier, a lot larger, and yeah, I'm excited. Let's be clear, a huge 2.4-ton MPV isn't a compact crossover. There's certainly more body roll and weight shifts, for instance, as we experience here. But true to promise, the LM still feels fluid and predictable, its steering maintains a certain level of reassuring weight and feel, and grip levels are commendable too. The LM is also well powered, and the intensity of its sound deadening masks sensations of speed for excellent refinement. The overall result is still immensely pleasant to pilot, not the helpless, clumsy machine you might imagine it to be around a track, and still similar to its siblings with its natural to drive feel. Arguably, the question of what the Lexus Driving Signature entails conceptually isn't a hard one. In fact, halfway through our trip, it had already been sort of answered. Instead, what's truly impressive and brought to life by getting right into the beating heart of Lexus this trip is how it manages to hold consistently across the modern Lexus lineup. One gets the sense that without the respect for the craft of vehicle development, it would have been impossible to achieve. It's the sort of incredible, somewhat insane attention to detail that only a brand bent on 60,000 hour perfection would challenge itself to do. And that, in our eyes, is the very definition of quiet and sublime luxury.
Alright guys, so that was our experience in and about Nagoya, getting to the heart of the Lexus brand and also trying to figure out what exactly defines the Lexus Driving Signature. We hope that you guys have enjoyed following us along, and if you've liked this video, don't forget to like and share it, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also follow us on TikTok at Sgcarmart. For now, that's all from me from Shimoyama with the beautiful Satoyama behind me. We'll see you in the next video. Bye! Metal, paper, paper, metal, paper. Paper, metal, metal, paper. But actual driving aside, I think what makes the Lexus Driving Signature so interesting is the fact that, and within the Satoyama, this